Seoul, South Korea, AP. South Korea's acting leader on Friday accepted the resignation of the chief of the Presidential Security Service, Park Jong-joon, as he faced police questioning over how his forces blocked law enforcement efforts to detain impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol last week. The acting leader, Deputy Prime Minister Choi Sang-mok, also expressed regret over the clashes between law enforcement officials and the Presidential Security Service and called for lawmakers to reach a bipartisan agreement to launch an independent investigation. The Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials and police are planning a second attempt to bring Yoon into custody as they jointly investigate whether his brief martial law declaration on December 3rd amounted to an attempted rebellion. The Presidential Security Service blocked an earlier attempt to detain Yoon at his official residence, which he has not left for weeks. It wasn't immediately clear how Park's resignation and Choi's call for an independent investigation to take over the probe on Yoon would affect the push to bring Yoon into custody. The government has been deliberating to find a wise solution, but unfortunately, within our current legal framework, it's difficult to find a clear resolution to end the conflict between the two agencies. Choi said about the tensions between the Anti-Corruption Office and Presidential Security Service over Yoon's potential detention. We urge the ruling and opposition parties to work together to agree on a bill to launch a special prosecutor investigation that is free from constitutional issues. This will naturally resolve the ongoing intense standoff. The main liberal opposition Democratic Party accused Choi of legitimizing Yoon's refusal to comply with a court-issued warrant under the guise of neutrality. It amounts to a public declaration of support for the leader of a rebellion, said No Jong-myun, a party lawmaker and spokesperson. The Democrats and other opposition parties on Thursday introduced a bill calling for an independent investigation into allegations of rebellion against Yoon. An earlier bill by the opposition proposing an independent investigation was scrapped after members of Yoon's Conservative Party opposed a clause allowing only opposition parties to recommend special prosecutor candidates. The Conservatives also aren't endorsing the new bill, which proposes that the Supreme Court's Chief Justice recommend two candidates to Yoon, who would then select one as the special prosecutor. If Yoon refuses to appoint anyone, the older of the two candidates would automatically assume the role, according to the bill. His presidential powers were suspended when the opposition-dominated assembly voted to impeach him on December 14th and accused him of rebellion. His fate now rests with the Constitutional Court, which has begun deliberating on whether to formally remove Yoon from office or reject the charges and reinstate him. A Seoul court on Tuesday issued a new warrant to the Anti-Corruption Agency to detain Yoon after the previous one-week warrant expired. The agency and police have not publicly disclosed how long the new warrant will remain valid. Speaking to reporters upon arriving for police questioning, Park again criticized the efforts to detain Yoon, saying that the investigation should proceed in a manner appropriate for the status of an incumbent president and the dignity of the nation. Park said he made several calls to Choi, urging him to mediate an alternative approach with law enforcement, and also made similar requests to Yoon's lawyers, but did not receive a satisfactory response. The Anti-Corruption Agency had also criticized Choi for refusing to instruct the Presidential Security Service to cooperate with its execution of the detainment warrant. After 13 hours of questioning, Park reappeared but refused to answer reporters' questions about why he had offered his resignation to Choi before departing in a vehicle. Asked in Parliament about the Presidential Security Service's effort to block the detention, National Court Administration head Cheon Dae-yeep said Friday that resistance without a legitimate reason can constitute a crime, such as obstruction of official duties. Although the president himself has wide-ranging immunity from prosecution while in office, that does not extend to allegations of rebellion or treason. Yoon's lawyers have questioned the legitimacy of the new detention warrant against Yoon issued by the Seoul Western District Court, arguing that the Anti-Corruption Agency lacks legal authority to investigate rebellion charges or order police to detain suspects.